Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are looking at Isaiah 64 to 66, and the good news is we have finally completed our journey through Isaiah. It's been a bit of time. We've covered quite a bit of text, and today we are finishing out the book. So that's at least kind of exciting. So unfortunately, this is the second time we have recorded this episode because we recorded this earlier today and somehow it disappeared. So the sound engineer, who's also me, apparently made a mistake and can't find the file. So here we are, late at night, trying to re-talk about Isaiah 64 to 66, and Jenny is thrilled.
No, not really. So these chapters, like we were talking about before, are very similar to other chapters we've read in Isaiah, where it's talking about like this judgment that is coming on the Israelite people, what they're going to experience, and some things that did stick out to me were how Isaiah calls out some of the things that they are going to be judged for, which are many things, but specifically in 65:11 it talks about how they have forsaken the Lord, they forgot his holy mountain, and they set a table for fortune and filled cups of mixed wine for destiny. When it's talking about fortune and destiny, it has both words with an uppercase letter at the beginning of words, like calling them out by name as like a proper noun, which is interesting, which to me makes it seem like these are actual things that were like real areas of temptation and I guess sin that were very prevalent. So I noticed that right away. That can be something that we also fall into ourselves. How often do we look for fame and fortune within our own lives, wanting the best and the biggest things for ourselves, for our homes, for our cars, whatever. And then also for destiny, I assume this was talking more about like our own pursuits of things that we want to do in our own lives. And how true is that of us today? Things that we can also be tempted with, doing what we want and what we think is best for our own lives, which apparently was a real problem for them as well.
I'm looking here at the notes that we have on chapter 65, verse 11. You are pointing this out. These are referring to actual proper names of actual events. So these are ritual sacrifices to pagan gods of luck and fate.
There you go.
So it's not really just like a vague descriptor. It is actually calling out the specific rituals they were doing, and it is definitely, I agree with you, it's interesting that they are very similar to things that people continue to want to know about or want to pursue
When you
today.
think about specific sins, like as depending on how deep you allow yourself to go with certain sins, like it becomes almost like a demonic thing. Like there are definitely evil things at work, evil spirits at work. And I think calling them out by name like that is definitely appropriate if it was such a problem that God needed to exile these people.
So there is like the judgment that we have been tracking with in Isaiah is definitely present here. In wrapping up the book, remember this is kind of a pretext. This is what people are reading before the exile even happens. And so you're seeing what they're being judged for. But then people in the original audience, they would have been really stretched to understand what Isaiah was talking about or see what Isaiah was talking about. And there is some pretty incredible things that he is describing, such as this new heaven and new earth. In chapter 65, verse 17, "For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former things shall not be remembered or come into mind. But be glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem to be a joy and her people to be a gladness." There's this idea of an incredible new Jerusalem that is coming, and that is a prophecy that's like fulfilled in their future, but also fulfilled in our future. So there would be a time coming where they were carried into exile far away from Jerusalem, but then people would return to a new Jerusalem. Like this empty, desolate place would be restored, and there would be a new temple, and there would be a new people that are called by God's name. But we also look forward to a time where Jesus will return. We believe this will actually happen, and he will rule and reign in a new kingdom, a new heaven and a new earth. And even when Isaiah goes on to describe what that will be like, he's talking about old men that don't regret the way they spent their lives. He's talking about young babies that don't die as young babies. One of the things that he adds is that people who have lived sinful lives will certainly be judged for their sinful lives. And this new heaven and new earth is basically like a place where we rejoice and worship God together and live obedient to him. So it would have struck the original audience as kind of like a wildly different way of life than what they were living. And I think at many times today, there is still hope in these passages because it reminds us of a time that is coming that is very much not like the way we live today.
And then in 66 verse 17, you had mentioned a little bit of that new heaven kind of situation, on the day of glory of the Lord.
Yeah, this is another thing that would have caught the people really off guard and would have really surprised them. Kind of this new people that will arise. For I know the works of their thoughts, and the time is coming to gather all nations and all tongues, and they shall come and see my glory, and I will set a sign among them. And from them I will send survivors to the nations, from Tarshish, Pul, Lud, from Tubal and Javan to the coastlands far away. They have not heard of my fame or seen my glory, and they shall declare my glory among the nations. So you get this idea of a people from all over the world, of every tribe and tongue and nation and kingdom, worshiping God and being obedient to his law. This is another thing that would have struck them as very odd, because in their time, even the Israelites who were supposed to be obedient to God were not. And so to imagine a people from all over the world worshiping God would have been pretty incredible to think of. And even still today, it's pretty incredible to think of if you actually visualize people of all nations and tribes and tongues. It feels like today, at least in our immediate context, we're really not getting along with several nations. And kind of what eats up all the time on the news is all these different nations that we're in conflict with or we don't agree with. And so it is really interesting to imagine Christ's church united in worship of God, every tribe, every tongue, every kingdom. It's pretty cool to think about. And we do look forward to a time where this will be true.
Then it also, for that same verse, talks about the same thing in Revelation, chapter 7, verses 9 and 10. So that verse that Ryan just read from 66:18 is further fleshed out in Revelation. So it's interesting how like this apocalyptic literature at the end of the Bible is referencing back to things that are said in Isaiah. So in Revelation 7:9 says, after this I looked and behold a great multitude that no one could number, from every nation, from all tribes of peoples and languages, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes, with palm branches in their hands, crying out in a loud voice, salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb. So it's really interesting because this call out from Isaiah that we're seeing in chapter 66 here at the end of Isaiah is a reference to something else that we hear about in Revelation. So it's another just faith affirming moment for me when often I think about the Old Testament. I think of a lot of really old people, a lot of really old stories that don't necessarily have to do a whole lot with my own life. But this is like super specific because it is like, this is a message being sent to the Israelites during those Old Testament times. But Isaiah is like literally calling us out as believers today. Like he is prophesying about us, not even like right here, right now, but also in the future. So it's really cool that like we also play a part in the Old Testament in a really roundabout but very pointed way, I guess, at the same time. So it's really cool to see how we are being prophesied about in Isaiah. We are like a part of what is going on in the New Testament as well, with the church and how Paul describes it, and how we have like responsibilities as the body to work together and to build the church together. So it's really, again, just a cool perspective to see how we are, as believers today, are present in basically all testaments of the Bible, and it's just really neat. So I guess today, as you ponder and think about that, just recognize your part in God's entire plan from beginning to end, and just thank him for his sovereignty and the fact that he is allowing us to be a part of that. So thanks for joining us in Isaiah today. We were totally done with this book, and we'll be back into Kings tomorrow.
See you then.
Thanks so much for listening to God's Plan, Your Part. If anything stuck out to you, if you have any questions, or if you'd like to receive a Bible, you can email us at godsplanyourpart@gmail.com. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, please consider supporting us through the link in our description. We love that you're on this journey with us, and we hope you have a great day. See you tomorrow.